is saying that
it is a separate and distinct entity. The government acquired, if the government acquired the land and gave it to railways, the government just cannot walk in one day and say.
So is it wrong for the Minister of Transport to say that they're going to take over the land?
It depends on the papers that exist between the Ghana government as government, government, and Ghana Railways Corporation.
Charlie, don't assume that government owns it. When I went to AMA, one of the big problems that I encountered was Makola had burnt down.
That's right.
A year or two previously. And the then President Rawlings had promised that the city, AMA, would rebuild the market. So a company had been set up consisting of AMA and SNIT to rebuild the market. And when I went on board, the construction had started and continuing. My first board meeting, SNIT asked for shares
in the market.
Okay. I understood from my director that AMA's share in the market, in the new market, was the land. It was going to be an equity share. So we were to tend the land title over to the company. Reasonable. So I said, okay, next time we come to a meeting, we'll bring the land title. The next time, when we left, my director told me, Ms. Mayor, I'm terribly sorry, but we don't have a title to the land. Makola has been written as AMA property for the last 100 years since it was established as a market. It's always been assumed to belong to the city. When time came to
renew the lease,
really, we didn't have it. We didn't own it. We had to go and apply to Lands Commission to be awarded the lease to the land.
Okay.
And to make the story even more interesting, I said, wait a minute, if we don't own Makola, which is historically is known as our property, what do we own? It turned out we did not own the residence where I lived. We didn't own the land. We did not own the office where we were located.
There you are.
We had to go
and do it all again.
And do it all over again. Okay? So, this is quite a fascinating question. Who owns what?
What land?
When the town and country planning shows you their map of the city, they designate certain areas AMA land, city land. The property where Novotel is located for years was designated as AMA property. At the same time, Government's Boys School also claimed part of that land because that's where they had their carpentry workshop and their gardens. And these claims coexisted quite happily. As is said, there are many different levels of ownership. Until something happens, and you have to provide the paper.
For the law.
From your legal perspective, what really are the chances of the traders? Because really, in all of this, one needs to look at their interests. They've lost a lot of assets. They've lost a lot of personal property.
It turns out that Ghana Railways indeed has title, and if it turns out that Ghana Railways has given a long lease to the association and given the association the power to parcel out portions as licenses to the traders might have the most superior right to everyone else.
But are they right in saying that they want to build the things themselves?
No.
But let's watch it. Look, who owns the land is the first question. Who has given what right to be on the land? Now that, as the former mayor is saying, the market essentially evolved.
Yes, right.
Now there's going to be a specific attempt to build a market. At that point in time, they have to go to AMA and get AMA's permission to build the place as a market. So the AMA may, and all of this, like I said, is based on the papers, may not have technical ownership. As he said, they found out that they didn't really own the land Makola was on, but they had been regulating it for a long time. So it is important to hit the papers. But what I'm saying is that if the papers indeed show that Ghana Railways owns it, and indeed Ghana Railways gave a long lease, and that lease has been parceled out, then those licenses may exist. But the question is that are you going to be allowed to set up the market? AMA might say we won't approve of it, or we will approve of it. So AMA's role might be an approval role. If
but
they don't
still
have
a very important role.
Yeah, critical.
Critical role.
If they say they won't agree. The airline that is essentially set up Accra will say you can't establish a market except with their permission. But the reality, as he said, is that a lot of the markets end up evolving, so they kind of have an some factual stamp by AMA through the collection of the tools, etc., etc. So this is going to be a very interesting case. AMA can actually stop that market from being built. You can build it, but you can't operate a market from there. Well, to the extent that AMA can enforce it.
So you think that the traders have some hope?
As I said, may, depending on the state of the papers. We all don't know the state of the documents. And that is what we need to be looking at. And this thing doesn't have to take a month. Everybody should bring their papers. Appoint an independent umpire. He looks through it, says, you own that, you don't own this, you own this, you don't own that. The matter is ended. This can be resolved.
One of the things I find surprising in all of this is what seems to be emerging as a fairly hard line of government in this matter, in its attitude to the traders. Because over the years, government has actually suspended the application of bylaws for political reasons. And
that's not entirely correct. They have not suspended application of bylaws. They may have touched certain bylaws, but to say they suspended bylaws is too Catholic a statement.
Well, I didn't say every bylaw. I said it suspended.
Like
I said it standard. Let me read what you said when you were mayor. Decongesting Accra is politically toxic thing to do and will remain an albatross on the neck of government until politicians muster the necessary will to take difficult decisions and decongest the city. The nation's capital will remain a national mess. You face the problem. Your successors have all faced the problem of decongestion from both political parties. Our brother Ajiri faced the problem. The current mayor started an exercise and was stopped by our late president. The people in Kumasi said that the party that lost that election because of decongestion. Now, clearly, it seems to me that there is some relationship between, if you like, the political sensitivity to quote-unquote listen to the people and the inability to decongest. That's why I'm saying that here it seems to be a little out of the way that government seems to be pushing a hard line. And if I may also be cynical, for example, hawkers don't pay tolls. And that may also be why they become targets.
But they vote.
But they do vote.
Okay, let me defend the metropolitan authorities. Look,
I'm not attacking them. I'm just saying that.
I'm not saying you are.
All I'm saying is that, you know,
the word for them.
Yeah.
You have technocrats, experts, put in there to do the work. They look at a crowd. They've drawn the plan for decongest. They look at Kole and say, wow, we can turn this into a little Amsterdam. We can desilt it, make the water, cure the waters, and put boats on it to ferry people from South Accra to North Accra.
That seems a little frivolous, but the reality is that...
It's a reality. What I mean is that we got money for it.
The waterway also flushes out the city.
No, I'm just giving you an example.
So I will prefer that as an example than Little Amsterdam. Because no one can take this discussion seriously. If we are going to throw everybody out just to create a Little Amsterdam.
Good. Right. So, but
it is part of the sanitation management of the city.
One of the key things is to then deal with what is now known as Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
Old Padava.
well, the people, the usual term, old Fadama for the planners, for us ordinary people, Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, what then happens? And this is the time, it's gone through various governments.
Yes.
One government minister looked at it and said, if we send them away, we will lose our constituency in the next election if we attempt to. And some people say, we don't want people near us. So we have a situation where we took money to do this, we took loans, which I presume we are still paying, and nothing happened. We've been frozen by the politics. You see, the law exists in the statute books in black and white, but it's got to walk off that paper to have effect. Now that work is hampered by politics, by lack of money, by economic factors, by social factors. If we don't deal with those, the laws will remain very beautiful laws in our statute books, but will not be worth the paper they are written on. So the poor city mayor gets hit all the time. You can't do this, you can't do that. But he's got a boss. And if the boss says, allow the drivers to park on the street.
So why go through the exercise?
This is Ghana. We bumble and stumble along until we find
For
something
example,
we can call
you know,
light.
when my senior brother left office, in 2011, long after he left, the AMA passed 77 bylaws to deal with decongestion. In the face of all these years,
I have an interesting anecdote concerning AMA bylaws, etc.
Decongestion.
I read a newspaper editorial in the Chronicle criticizing the city authorities for not providing Accra with proper drainage and complaining that how can that every time it rains the city floods. If those who have been put in charge cannot do their job, then they should get out of the way. That editorial was written in 1895 by the Gold Coast Chronicle. So, you see...
And in 2013...
In 2013...
Same thing is happening. Yes. No,
okay. I'm not excusing it. I'm just telling you that...
You know, actually, what I'm doing is, I'm actually defending the city authorities. What I'm saying is that, is there a disconnect between the desire, you know, of the mayor of Accra, who wants to plan and regulate their city, who's built markets, Kaneshi, etc., for which people are paying tolls, and others are just walking around making money without paying. And then gets a game plan going, and suddenly the political master just whips the carpet from underneath them.
Yes.
And it's happening too often.
There is indeed a disconnect.
There is a disconnect, no doubt about that. Accra is not a city-state. Accra is part of a political organism. And these are all connected. Accra mayor has his own agenda regarding the running of the city, and the government has an agenda also. A wonderful idea is when the two merge together, but sometimes they don't.
But isn't it debilitating that the mayor starts to do what he or she thinks is the right thing, and then somebody comes along and says,
we're not running a federal government.
No.
Yeah, it's a unitary state.
So
you already have a boss. But you have a point. Now everybody speaks about Lagos State, federal. But Lagos State then got a governor who was prepared to work. And it is not the Lagos State that we all used to know. Everybody's talking about Rwanda because he got a president who said, I want to think out of the box. I want to do stuff. Can we get there? I think that, and that's the point I'm making, that we have the laws. It is making the laws work that is a problem. This program would have achieved nothing if we don't address how we're going to make sure that those laws work. For example, we're talking about the Chinese and Galamsey and everything. The laws to prevent what is going on exist. How are they working in Ghana without the work permits? Do we really need an interministerial committee, or we need Ghana immigration going in there, putting them in buses and putting them on the next flight back to Beijing? That is what we should be talking about.
No. But we need to iron out and tease out the disconnect, because
well, I'll tell you one disconnect in Accra.
Yeah.
The boss of the mayor is not popularly elected.
No.
The boss is nominated by the president, and then is approved by the assembly. The mayor's loyalty is not to the city.
No.
It's loyalty to his boss, okay?
Because he's the president's man in the city.
He's a little president.
Yes.
So you can always get, he always has to keep one antenna out for the vibrations from the big house. If we are going to do what Ace is saying, then first of all, you got to change the law so that the mayor is responsible to the people of the city. He will have to come back every 4 years and justify his stewardship of the city. But so long as he doesn't have to come back and do that, he will simply keep looking at the castle.
So why does he bother to even go through it?
Why does he?
Bother to try to decongest.
Because it's part of his mandate. But he understands fully well that
at some point to be stopped.
At certain points things will happen. And that's politics. You have to learn to go around it. It's unfortunate, but that's the way we've set it up. And I suppose the whole point of this discussion here is, do we have to go through that?
That's right. But we will get to the AC's point about... Let me give you an example of a place like Rwanda. If you go to Rwanda, they've got a very sophisticated, intricate Okada system running, in which absolutely everybody who is involved obeys the laws, wears the helmets, they have security checks on all of them, etc., etc., etc. Come to our situation, and a law is passed, and the first thing a regional minister says is that this is useless, we're going to not enforce it.
Can I ask a question? And he remained minister after he uttered those words?
Absolutely.
That is the problem we have.
Absolutely.
There, right there, is the problem. If
the minister who criticized Ajiri Blankson and pulled him back from implementing this congestion still remained the minister.
And let me tell you exactly what that minister said. There are many laws sitting in statute books which are not being implemented, and that the law banning Okada riding should be added to them. This was what the particular minister said at the time.
And he remained minister.
Not only did he remain minister, I believe he's become even a bigger minister.
Well, but right there, like I said, we've identified what the problem is. Look, we've all traveled and driven in other countries. Why do you not go beyond the speed limit when you are driving on the I-95 in the U.S.? Because you know
the law will catch you.
The next car might be the policeman. In Ghana, in my years of driving, I have seen 2 speed guns. One between Mankesim and Cape Coast, and the other one between Cape Coast and Takoradi. And they hide in the corner so they can get out and, hey, we've caught you.
They haven't been calibrated for about 30 years.
Well, and guess what? Because they are the only 2. Before you get there, the drivers come in, will blink twice to tell you they are two towns away. That is how laughable the attempts are. Yeah. But and that's why I say that early days yet, but I'm beginning to like this IGP. He's put the police out there. You know that when you are getting to a traffic light, there will be, apart from red, yellow, and green, there will be red and blue flashing. I think that we begin to see a fair bit of discipline around there, although sometimes the police just stand there and allow the motorbike riders to ride through the red lights as if red lights do not apply to motorbike riders. But bit by bit we will get there. I think that, but it's going to cost us money, political will. We're going to have to take a decision that we're going to do it. But the politicians are always going to be afraid because of the vote. Look, the last days of the NPP, they started implementing traffic laws, arrested bad drivers, threw them in jail, and released them just in between the 2 elections because they were losing the election. But
is it just politicians? Because let me take another, we'll spend the last 10 minutes talking about what can we do, but it's not just politicians. For example, our law on children. We have several laws on children. Yeah. We're the first country to
ratify the
convention, etc. We have all those things about when somebody reaches the age of marriage. And yet, as we speak today, people are being betrothed.
Because the law hasn't walked from the pages of the law books into the lives of the people. And that journey involves money, politics, economics, social factors.
They've been there for 20 years or more.
Can I point out more to you?
I just told you something from 1895.
Yes, I know.
Beggars. You know, it's illegal to beg unless you are under the age of 17 and unless it's for a religious purpose. We've had all of these laws sitting there. The question is moving the law from where it is into the lives of the people. If you sit in Accra and pass a beautiful Children's Act based on the Convention of the Rights of the Child, you have ratified somewhere else in the world.
But there are people who are making careers with, institutionalized people who are making careers trying to implement, these things.
NGOs?
NGOs, the Children's Commission, etc., etc.
With what funding? We've had the beautiful intestate succession law in there for how many years, and how many widows are still not being deprived of properties, because we have to enforce the law. The politicians will not enforce it. Trust me, you and I, if we didn't have laws, we'll break the law all the time. Really, if you get to the traffic light at 12 midnight, will you stop?
Will you
drive?
No,
right? But we need the law implemented.
A politician to
you
stop
and I.
Children being given away at the age of 12.
The reason you elect executive is to make sure that they execute the law. Look, the human being, short of all social constraints, will be a beast.
So what are we doing to make sure that the executive execute the law?
We have elected by having a program like this. We have
elected the executive. We've put them there. We've put the executive there. Mr. Mayor, I mean, when you were mayor, I think it was maybe, I don't know, the issues of the KIO and those.
We're just starting.
We're just starting.
The KIA really became a phenomenon in the mid-90s after the disturbances in the north, Kokumba, Namumba, whatever.
The drift,
That drifted, a lot of people came. So it was just starting.
And it became a big, huge thing for the city.
It is a huge thing now. At that time, it wasn't that big, but I mean, in retrospect, it's obvious what was going to happen.
What's going to happen?
Sure.
But then people promised politically to build hostels for
and they were not voted for, so it might have been a repudiation of the promise to build hostels for Kaya.
But you're raising issues. You're raising issues of funding.
I don't believe it's so much the funding as the political will. It's one of them.
Let's look at.
There must be a cultural, social convention.
Yeah.
A convention that this is what we want to do.
But see, time and time again, you get people. It's not just the minister we spoke about. There's a very famous case, and I remember because it's remained with me when the Trokosi law was passed.
Sure.
And a very important member of governance said, "I will not obey this."
Well, he said it, and then what happened? Did he really take steps to disobey it? And if he did, was he arrested and thrown in jail?
No, but you are talking about leadership. You're talking about leadership.
Well,
and if somebody signals that.
Well, what do you do? Then the people who believe...
And not only that, like the minister, he went on to higher things.
Well, then it would appear as if we reward those who declare non-allegiance to the law of Ghana, although they swear an oath when they become a minister. So it tosses the hot coal back into the lap of the president. The politics of it. That, Mr. President, when your minister said he would defy the law, what did you do? In many countries, he won't last 1 minute after that statement.
He will have to resign.
He will be forced to resign. In fact, what I hear in some of those countries is that when you are appointed as minister, you sign your resignation letter and give it to the president. The day he wants to fire you, he dates it and releases it. So often you are resigned before you find out. But not here. The minister is probably more powerful than his boss because of the votes he delivers from 10 constituencies.
But, so should we throw our hands up in there? What do we do?
It is for you and I. It's for the ordinary Ghanaians.
Civil society?
Civil society who want to make a change. Let me tell you something about politicians. You've been one. Look, when you stare long at a politician, he blinks. He will blink first. But we are not prepared to put our heads out there for that kind of work. If we demand that it should be done, they will do it. But often we folded our arms and are benefiting from the illegality. And so we are all to blame. The politician, civil society, the ordinary Ghanaian, all of us who are breaking the law, and all of us who are not complying with the law. We are to blame, right from the least to the greatest. And unless there's a complete social change of mind, which is what he's talking about, we are not going anywhere. We'll continue to bumble around.
In our constitution, we have a body called National Council for Civic Education.
And what is their budget?
You see, we keep talking about budgets. We are in a country that in the last year overspent its budget by almost $5 billion United States dollars, and has consistently done so. So I don't think that the issue of money, not also talk about but I said, I don't think the issue is not having the money. The issue
I agree with you.
It is a willingness, in my view,
sure,
to deploy those resources.
The political will
so political will that the ex-mayor is talking about.
You know, but I'm just saying that even if the NCC is a constitutional body.
A constitutional body.
You cannot write it off. But the point I'm trying to make is that the issues you're talking about, civil society, and I would have thought, and you know, we had a similar discussion last week, I would have thought that these are the things that the civic education...
Do we still teach civics in our school?
No, we don't. You and I about civics and current affairs.
So
but why do we have a civic education constitutional body and we don't teach civics? What is it doing? The only thing I see it doing is election time, you come and say this is how you vote. But those people, whether they have money, they are being paid a salary every day. And have done so since 1992. Can we ask them what they're doing?
I won't discount that. I believe it's part of the things that we have to do. We have to look at the NCC and its role. But it goes way beyond there. We have to identify all the various levels and who is supposed to do what to make sure that this nation works. Right now, it's not working. And that's
Mayor,
why we are talking.
Yes, sir.
What was your relationship with your boss?
Which of
your
them?
Political boss. You were
yes.
by the Constitution, you are the
handmaiden of the
handmaiden of the political boss.
Oh, and then kind of under local government, not really under local government evolution.
No, because the MMs, whatever they call them, are the president's representatives on the ground. That's direct.
Technically, but then obviously you have the minister of local government, you have the regional minister. So there are tiers between.
So what were the relationships between the various? The minister, the bosses.
Oh, the president was the chief of CEO of the nation. So you have a certain.
Did you run into difficulties?
Sometimes you report to him. Sometimes, very rarely, because there is an hierarchy that must be maintained. If I have anything, I go through a regional minister, and then it goes to the minister of local government, and then it goes to him, unless he has reason to circumvent them and talk to me.
Let me rephrase the question like some lawyers are doing.
Yeah.
What led you to the statement you made?
At that time?
Yeah, at that time.
It's on the face of the
sheet. It didn't take brain surgery to make that comment.
No, but...
I mean, it's quite obvious that when you are running a city and you are trying to do decongestion and you are being restricted, it's quite obvious why. So when you get a smart journalist to come and talk to you and you want to be honest with the journalist, you tell him, well, look, the reason why these things have not been done is because our political bosses lack the political will to go through to the end. That's all.
So why don't our political bosses say that let's change the law? Because we need the votes.
Well, you can ask them that.
Well, I don't
no
understand.
politician would answer that in the affirmative.
What I'm saying is that, especially when it comes to things like decongestion and the Children's Act and all of that, the implementation always gets blocked.
Let's take that. That's too much. Look, let me tell you what my view is. Ghana's presidency is a super president.
Yes.
The president
it's an elected dictatorship.
Way too much power.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yes, yes. It was a reflection of things that were. I think that if the mayor is to have power, we need to set our constitutional structure in such a way that there are certain matters in which the mayor is his own boss.
But you see, let me tell you, because you alluded to me being a politician once. Let me tell you what happened.
Tell me.
The reality is that when one dispensation is in power, the other dispensation says we must elect mayors.
Sure.
When it swaps around, they say, no, because the power to appoint and give instructions directly.
It's an immense power.
Absolutely. And those who said, oh, we should elect mayors when they were in opposition, suddenly find reason why they shouldn't happen.
It happens all the time.
All the time. It's happening all the time.
And so that explains why we are in the mess. And the people who ought to speak are the ordinary Joes and Josephines who ought to say we are tired of
Kofi and Nama.
Well, some names have been here for a long time.
Okay.
And have become part of our names. you have some, Nathaniel. You have some, Charles.
Eves. Ah, better.
I have West. Eves.
So we shall bow to precedence, right?
You see, yeah, you're right. We need to begin to speak about this and begin to hold the president personally responsible. For the president to say, well, this is a bit too much for me. I want to cede some of these powers so I can exercise, I can have more space to do other things that we have to do. We need to start looking at the powers of the presidency. They are way too immense. We need to let the mayors have some power. I'm not too sure whether voting in itself is the be-all and end-all of it. But the powers that the mayors have ought to be greatly enhanced if they are going to be real agents of change in the districts, the municipalities, and the metropolitan areas.
You see, I'll share your view, but one of the problems I have is that we've been through an extensive and expensive constitutional review process. And for my money, all that came out were banalities. The issues that we are trying to discuss here in terms of the restructuring of the powers of the rulers and the ruled, I did not see any of it in any of these discussions.
It's not going to happen without a fight. I'm not talking of war. I'm talking about there has to be a long, protracted debate to force these things to happen. Change, evolution works, but change comes when we are prepared to fight for it.
So it looks like a plague on both your houses. It doesn't matter the label they wear. The politicians like to hold on to the power.
That is true. They do.
But if they want to hold on to the power, how do you square holding on to the power with the pretense that you want an ordered society?
Because we all like to go to heaven when we die.
But we don't want to die.
So we try to make it as palatable as possible. Okay?
Well, so the bottom line...
But, as Ace has said, the reason that the three of us are sitting here is to send a message. After all, when you started this program, you started a program with the president talking about setting up this committee, talking about it, okay? So, you are asking, we are asking him, or you are asking him that, do we need another committee? Are there other things which are fundamentally more important to be examined? All right? So, it's a
but one of the things we haven't talked about is, we always bring these things back because it's also the character of the society. You know, every Ghanaian wants to find a way of sidestepping the law if they can't to get their way.
I'm not sure about every Ghanaian. I think that...
in almost every situation, you find that this is happening.
No, but really, as I keep saying, if you get to the traffic light at 12 midnight and there's nobody there, no other car parked, you will drive through. Why is it that in some countries they have something they call the four-way stop?
Yes.
Where if you get to the four-way, whether you will stop. And the first person to get to the line is the first person to leave. Because there's enforcement. That is the bottom line. Forget it. When the lights go off, then you see who we really are.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to make.
And get
aren't we isn't the politician reflecting the people that we are?
I said that the best image of it is that sometimes when the traffic light is off, then a person we consider normally as deranged or a lunatic will be directing the traffic, and you and I will be told when to move.
Aren't you agree with my absolute point that we get the leadership we get because of the people that we are?
I agree.
Yes.
Yes, we are adding them. Let's end the show.
Absolutely. So here we are.
Have we resolved anything today?
No, we haven't resolved anything. But the object of the programs I'm doing is essentially to take issues and highlight why they are bottlenecks and why we need to make sure that we begin to find ways to think outside of the box. You know, we have these platitudes where things come, speeches are made, and then nothing happens. But I think that, as you say, if we want to start to get things moving, then the issues are, do you just make the law? What are the underlying factors? What are the issues? What is the political underplay? What are the realities? But unless we begin to dissect these kind of underlying influences, then we're going to just sit there, politicians who say, oh, we'll do A, B, and C, you know, because I will still end the show by saying, is there any illegality going on in the context of the small-scale mining? If somebody is given a concession and he invites a Chinese person in, and the Chinese person brings their machine, and it gets all that stuff done, and the Ghanaian is getting their money, is that illegal?
Straight out illegality. Straight out illegality.
What's the illegality?
If they've not gone through the process of the Chinese person stay in Ghana and work being approved by the Minerals Commission and Immigration Service, it is an illegality. Good. If they've gone through that, it is not an illegality.
Yes. So we establish the illegal and the legal.
But even if they've gone through that, then we can ask questions of the Minerals Commission and Immigration Service. Why did you give those permits? Is it in the interest of Ghanaians that you give those permits? So there's the illegality bit, and then there's still the political bit.
You see, because one of the things that I want to end on is the fact that we have assumed that every Chinese here is illegal. But I don't think that is true.
I agree.
Thank you very much, my senior brother, former mayor, Ace. Thank you very much for joining us on Tarzan's Take tonight.
Thank you.
It's been interesting, and I think that my very provocative opening words have maybe been reinforced, and in many ways maybe supported by my two guests. What we need to do as a society is to actually begin to hold our leaders to account. And if we start holding our leaders to account, the laws that are passed should also reflect the realities of the culture in which we operate. And when we pass them, we must ensure that these laws are enforced. You've been watching Tarzan's Take. If you enjoyed it, thank you very much. We'll be back next week.